Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, the five most underrated football players for the Florida Gators going into 2025. This is, to me, a fascinating conversation to have with this football team where there are a lot of people that are really high on Florida going into 2025. If you were to ask a person, hey, why are you high on the Florida Gators going into 2025? The first answer would be DJ Lagway, and rightfully so. That's my first answer as well. Then you say, hey, what are some of the other reasons you like Florida going into 2025? I think there's a lot of people outside of the Florida Gator fan base that probably couldn't give you another really good reason. DJ Lagway, he is rated properly. One of the best quarterbacks in the country going into 2025. I strongly believe that. The rest of this roster does not get nearly the attention that it deserves in terms of how solid this roster is going into 2025. I damn near wanted to include this whole roster in terms of players who are underrated because I genuinely kind of feel like we're seeing that take place where so much emphasis is going to DJ Lagway, where we are forgetting that there are a lot of really good football players on this Florida Gators team coming into the 2025 year. Who are the five most underrated? That's the conversation I want to get into. Before we get into it, as always, to the Florida fans, let it fly in the comments section. Whether it's arguing with some of the players I have on this list, specifically the first name that we're going to talk about that y'all see on the screen, or it's just kind of throwing in some players that you think should be on the list. It's the month of February. It is the month of hot takes before we get into spring practice. Let it fly. Appreciate you guys. To the Florida fans, it's going to be a really fun next couple of weeks and months talking this football team on the recruiting trail in spring practice. Appreciate you guys. Without further ado, let's get into it. Damen George, he's underrated going into 2025. I mean, look, 2023, Damen George at right tackle was an absolute disaster. He was one of the worst offensive tackles at the power forward level in that 2023 year. You kick him into guard. It was like you saw a brand new football player. And to me, it makes sense, right? You look at Damen George, and it was pretty clear that he just wasn't the athlete he needed to be at tackle to play in the SEC. You kick him into guard, and you force him to play in a little bit more of a phone booth, and you force defenders to play him more in a phone booth and say, hey, I can't use my speed and athleticism to beat a guy like Damen George because I don't have as much space to operate. Damen George excelled. I mean, it starts with pass protection. Yeah, he was getting whipped in 2023 in terms of what getting him on the outside shoulder. He just wasn't the athlete enough to really get out in space. You put him inside, and there's kind of no other way you got to go right through him if you're trying to beat him when he's playing guard. You can't. He's got a really good anchor. You take a look at the numbers from the pass pro. I mean, gave up 0 sacks, only 5 quarterback hurries on 208 pass pro opportunities. Very, very good numbers. Then I went back and watched some football games just because I wanted to make sure I wasn't like losing my mind here. It was really good, not only in pass protection, but in the run game. This dude's a people mover. He's very, very big. He's got some power in his hands. And what I noticed was, yes, he might not be an elite athlete at tackle, but he's a pretty damn good athlete for a guard. And he can get to the second level at a high level and go pick up linebackers in the run game. Damen George was really, really good for Florida in the 2024 year at guard. And Florida's got a couple of really good guards that they kind of rotated in and out in 2024. Damen George is one of them. And again, you talk about reasons to believe in Florida. I'll go with another guy. I wanted to include Jake Slaughter. Jake Slaughter was an All-American last year on a couple different media platforms. So Jake Slaughter, he's properly valued as one of the better centers in the country. Austin Barber at left tackle. Look, is Austin Barber a first-team All-SEC tackle? No, probably not. But he's a reliable tackle that's going into year 4, starting in the SEC. It's hard to find these kind of guys. And I feel like sometimes we take for granted just having solid tackle play because it's pretty damn rare in college football. And there are a lot of teams that have massive question marks at tackle going into the 2025 year. Florida at the left tackle spot, you don't have that question because Austin Barber has done it for a while. Now, you look at Austin Barber and say, hey, maybe why is he kind of underrated here? Well, he played really well in 2022 at the right side. Moved over to the left tackle spot in 2023. There were some growing pains. It was not great for Austin Barber in 2023. significantly better. He gave up 5 sacks in the 2023 season, only gave up 2 sacks in the 2024 season, clearly getting acclimated, clearly getting more comfortable on the left side of this offensive line. To me, it's, yeah, kind of going back to how we started this. He's not going to be a guy that's a top 10 NFL draft pick, but he's the guy that if you ask Billy Napier, name me some of the players that you're most confident in going into 2025, Austin Barber's probably in the top 10. Really, really solid left tackle, and that matters because there's not a lot of programs that have confidence in their left tackle going into 2025. Number 3, probably the most underrated player on this football team in terms of how good he is, and that's Tyreek Sapp. Now, I think to the Florida fans who are probably watching this, you're probably pretty dialed in on this program. Tyreek Sapp was one of the best players on this football team last year, and it's not flashy. You look at Tyreek Sapp and say it's not flashy what he does, but he is so freaking good for Florida in that 2024 year. Go back to the numbers. First on the team in run stops with 22. First on the team in run stops with the Florida Gators front seven last year that had elite linebacker play, and Tyreek Sapp led the team in run stops. Normally, you see the linebackers do that. Tyreek Sapp did that from the edge. He is elite against the run. Those 22 run stops, an average depth of tackle of 0.7 yards down the field. He does not get moved off the line of scrimmage, routinely gets off blocks, maintains good leverage, really good at keeping that outside shoulder clean. When we talk about edge rushers, we normally go to how well can you get after the passer? And look, it matters. And Tyreek Sapp is not bad at getting after the passer either. He's third on the team in quarterback curry. He's at a 13% pass rush winner. He's a very good pass rusher as well. I wonder if you ask Billy Napier and say you strap a lie detector onto him and say, hey, would you rather have Princely U or Tyreek Sapp? I would not be surprised if Billy Napier goes with Tyreek Sapp because Princely's probably a better pass rusher. Princely U as a pure pass rusher is freaking elite at it. We know that. If you want to sack the quarterback, what do you have to do? You got to stop the run on first and second down. Princely U's most dangerous asset of his game is contingent on getting in those third and long spots where he can just pin his ears back, not worry about stopping the run, getting after the quarterback. Do you want to have a good pass rush? To me, it starts with stopping the run on first and second down so you can put yourself in those third and longs where you can get after the passer. Tyreek Sapp will help you do that in 2025. Love this kid. Probably the most underappreciated football player on this team going into 2025. Bona fide stud. Number 3, we're at 4 now. Deshaun Johnson, cornerback. And with the conversation, why I wanted to include Deshaun Johnson is I feel like the narrative around him was really scrappy, was really good for Florida as a redshirt freshman in 2024. But I feel like we don't talk about the upside that this kid brings to the table. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. Coming out of high school, 4.4 shuttle, 4.5 40-yard dash, laser time, long physical, short area quicks, long speed. He checks all the athletic profiles that you want in a really good boundary cornerback, and he showed that towards the end of the year. And here's what I love most about Deshaun Johnson. 29 targets faced, only gave up 14 catches, which is a 48.3% completion percentage, extremely low for a boundary cornerback, 0 penalties. Normally, when you see those cornerbacks that have really low completion percentages out there on the boundary, they probably have 3, 4, 5 penalties. Deshaun Johnson, lockdown cornerback that didn't really get himself into trouble with penalties either. That's what stands out to me about a guy like Deshaun Johnson. Didn't start a single game for Florida until week 10 at Georgia. Now, he had played in a rotational manner, but didn't get his first start until week 10. Started the rest of the way, was really damn good. I'm a big fan of Deshaun Johnson going into 2025. Last one on the list, I'm going to go to Jordan Castell, who I just think, look, when you're playing safety, when you make a mistake, it's bad, and everybody knows you made that mistake. The Jordan Castell have those at times, yeah, but his consistency to me, I think kind of goes and kind of flies under the radar. Most notably, he's really good in coverage, and it's really hard to find safeties that can hold up in coverage. With what Coach Roberts wants to do on defense, especially with some of the pressure packages he wants to bring, if you are a safety in this defense, you have to hold up in coverage. Jordan Castell can do that. He kind of built almost like a cornerback, a little bit heavier, but he's got the length and athleticism like a cornerback. And in fact, I believe played a lot of cornerback at the high school ranks. 37 targets, only 23 catches, 62% completion percentage. That's a very good number for a safety. Faced a lot of targets too. 10% missed tackle rate. Doesn't miss many tackles in the back end. What I love most about him is how versatile he is. I mean, he's a guy that played over 400 snaps as a high safety, free safety. Came up in the box for another 200 snaps. Played another 100 snaps at that nickel spot. They do it all with Jordan Castell. And he was only a true sophomore. I mean, he feels like a guy that's been within this program for so long, and he is going into year 3. He's played so much football his first 2 years. One, he ain't this 6-year senior that's kind of capped. He continuing to get better in his career. And he's a guy that is, going into year 3, you start taking a look at who are the leaders of this Florida defense. Jordan Castell is probably in the top 3 on the defensive side of the football, and rightfully so. He's been a very good player for Florida, and has been kind of that do-it-all guy that matters in this Coach Roberts defense. This is my thing about Florida, is we could have had a lot of names to talk about in terms of underrated players, because I feel like every single one of these players not named DJ Lagway is underrated going into 2025. When you talk about Florida, it's about DJ Lagway, and again, he's the engine of this program over the next couple of years. A lot of really good football players on this team. There are not a lot of question marks that you have about Florida going into 2025 from a personnel standpoint. Now, from a coaching staff standpoint, Billy Napier maximizing this football team, yeah, we all got question marks. We got to see that in the 2025 year. But in terms of the personnel, man, I don't see a lot of question marks. That's what fires me up the most about Florida. This is an important conversation to have with Florida, where DJ Lagway is going to give you a chance to do something really, really special over the next couple of years. If something special happens, these quote unquote underrated players continue to play good. We'll close it down there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. Probably left off some names that y'all are pretty ticked off about. Let it fly in the comments section. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.